And you're listening to Artists on Art. I am your host for this week's February 4th show, Nada Milkovich. I have such a great pleasure to be speaking with some wonderful artists this week, and they all are involved in an event that's happening this first Friday, the First Friday series of Santa Cruz County, at the Tannery Arts in the Elemental Art Studio Gallery 128. Which happens to be, of course, the Studio 128 at the Tannery Art Center. And here with me is Iris Irina Silva. Iris, say hello.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me on air.
Iris is a long-term friend and art educator as well as practitioner here in Santa Cruz County, although originally from Italy. Rome?
Rome, yes.
Roma. Bella Roma. And so Iris has had a gallery at the Tannery Arts for how long now?
Since this past June. I got the space in June, and I've been really actively involved with the Tannery Art Center, and I've been always including by hosting different artists during every First Friday. And out of this wonderful First Friday event, I ended up inviting the other two artists that are here today with us, Albert and Heijin.
So it's RDuck Albert, I believe.
Yes.
Oh, so formal.
We've got RDuck Albert, formally introduced here, and Heejin Lee. Heejin, say hi to us.
Hello, everybody.
Heejin is also a local artist via another country, Korea.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And Mr. RDuck Albert, you're just a plane guy. You're American.
I like airplanes. I fly. I walk. I can bicycle, too.
And so this is a really interesting, I think a little different thing for you, Iris, is that usually you have guest artists in your gallery along with your work.
Yes, correct.
And you're also a visual artist, but we're going to talk about your art because you're multimedia kind of gal. You're multi-plane, like metaphysical.
Very much so. I'm very much involved in the 2D reality and wanting to set it forth into the metaphysics.
Yeah, and so we're going to talk about that. But what I think is really interesting is that this time you actually collaborated with your guest artists.
Yes, and this show called Inspiration has given me a lot of creative input because of that, not only as one of the artists involved, but also as a curator for this artistic collaboration, and it's been really inspiring for me.
Oh, wonderful. And so RDuck Albert has been doing you're both a visual artist and a musician.
Yes, primarily a musician, but often a musician, and slipping in a lot of video, particularly with the recent innovation of the internet.
Yeah. And so I'm just going to bring up a little music here that we've got that is RDuck Albert's. And you've been making music for how long now?
Oh, gosh, I started when I was about knee-high and just kept going. Long history on the back coast playing symphonic drums, percussion.
So tell us a little bit about this piece. Let's just let the audience hear it for a little bit, and we'll come back in just a second with RDuck Albert, the composer of this. So tell us a little bit about this piece, RDuck.
What we have going on here is an introduction to a larger duet that'll be happening as it develops with a composer and software designer. Wayne Jackson creates a piece of software called Trilobite that synthetically and genetically creates an algorithm that produces a series of music and tones. So we got together with two versions of this software to create this particular piece.
it sounds like you started with some natural sounds. It sounds like a natural bird. Am I mishearing that?
No, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. What you're hearing now in the back, you're starting to hear some of those pieces come in. It's a long-form radio program, and you're hearing an excerpt from a show that I do weekly on Free Radio Santa Cruz.
Woohoo!
And
we love free radio.
Free radio. We love you guys.
Yes, we do.
This is great. No, we've done things with each other at
we
various
are.
points.
We continue to collaborate. But we will not tell where you are.
That's okay. We don't know where we are.
There you go. That's the best way to do it. Keep it a secret.
That's right. That's right.
Because free radio did have some problems
some time ago. Yeah.
So we got to just be cautious. So, RDuck, tell us a little bit about the process of working with Heejin and Iris.
Well, a little bit like what you're hearing right now is the show often involves collaboration. I'm very used to that over the past, since about 2001 I've been doing that program. So joining Heejin and Iris was a natural transition, except perhaps that it's in a visual realm. And for them, they're joining me in a more audio realm, which might be a little foreign for them, but perhaps not. You just probably play music. You must play music while you're working sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. Hey, Jean's nodding her head, which is excellent radio.
Oh, yes.
Well, this is Iris speaking again. I took an amazing class during my BA years in Bennington College, and I was working with the jazz department there. And we took a class where, as painters, we had to listen to specific jazz pieces by, the great jazz musicians from Miles Davis to John Coltrane, whatever. And then you had to make a set of new works, and they had to be truly different from your other way of making art. So this collaboration called Inspirations, that's going to happen this first Friday at my gallery, is in a way also personally, on a personal level, a tribute to my teachers at Bennington. And I remember that I had so much fun. And once again, out of this collaboration, one of the things that I've enjoyed the most working with Heejin and Albert is that we've been improvising new work. So everything that you will be seeing at the exhibition opening is all an entire new body of work coming out from the three of us. And then, on top of that, the cherry on the pie is that thanks to Albert's expertise with computer things, he was able to create what he calls visual sculpting. And I've never seen such a thing before, where I can see my art transforming and transmuting and translating itself into Heijin's arts and vice versa. So this element is really wonderful.
Okay, now we're going to have to get a little more specific because you just lost me there. Which happens with me and Iris quite often, actually. I try to hang on, but yet she does dive into the metaphysical and now the technical. Okay, so let's just take a step back really quickly. So RDuck Albert has an algorithm, is what I'm assuming? Tell us.
Oh, in this particular case, it's a long-form manipulation. This is all handcrafted, the video, not automated in this particular case. I use some video software very commonly available, and from that I can shape and recraft these art pieces so that they can communicate with each other.
So you're actually watching a video?
For a portion of this, yeah. That'll be happening simultaneously throughout the whole evening.
And does the video project over the artwork? No.
It'll be its own
It'll be its own
space.
piece, its own artwork.
Right.
Right.
And it's a bit like what the audio you're hearing. It's what we were hearing for a moment there. It was it's a very gentle progression. It's right. I mean, these are the bird sounds. And
this is what's happened to the bird sounds that have been synthesized
as they've evolved over a period of time. And it's often with electronic music and experimental music in particular. Some people there can be a preconceived notion as to what that might do to your ear, as you enter such an environment. And that's why I call these sculptures. It's a sonic sculpture. It's an expression that is maybe a little more gentle on the old ear hole.
So sound sculpture is what you were talking about, Iris.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating is since we've been in workshop and art lab for about 6 months, right after the second meeting, we've been meeting every other week or, every other 3 weeks, is that we realized that the word inspirations to the show wouldn't be enough, that we needed to add translations, transitions, and textures. And that's after we saw the first video sculpting that Albert created out of my visual artwork, new ones, and Heejin's. And so this element is very dear to me. It's very important to me because for me it truly signifies what happens when artists collaborate together in a creative process. And that creative process doesn't lose momentum. It keeps growing. In fact, this morning I met up with Heejin and we were laughing and saying that we can't stop producing. Like, I haven't been so productive artistically in a while.
Oh, knock on wood. Because we know as artists, having a cold spell can... not having the muse smile down upon you can be very disheartening. Nothing worse than a repressed artist, I say.
Right. So in this case, that hasn't really been bothering any of us, I think.
That's fabulous. You're listening to Irina Silva talk about the upcoming exhibition Inspirations happening at the Elemental Art Studio Gallery -128, which happens to be at the Studio 128 at the Tannery Arts Center. If you'd like to see more information about this, please go to elementalartiststudio.co. And then we'll talk a little bit later in the show about some Facebook pages that all three of you are represented on Facebook with your art. Iris, you've been making art your whole life, would you say?
Yes, I was initiated into art by my mother, who at the time I was little, she was studying at the Beaux-Arts of Paris. So I started off, very traditionally, and I never stopped. It's always been part of my upbringing and my way of living.
What I think is really interesting about your work, Irina Silva, is that you were also quite a bit influenced by shamanism. In fact, there's a big element of shaman arts in your art practice.
Yes, and that's why also I use the name Elemental Art for my gallery studio place, because I believe that the shaman in each one of us exists. And culturally speaking, that element has been kind of taken away from us because of many different reasons. Let's just put it really briefly. With the Industrial Revolution, things got a little tricky. But I've been so fortunate that my mother, she transitioned from being a visual artist into being a yoga teacher. And so I learned the practice of meditation and understanding the principle of pilgrimage and going to sacred places throughout the world. My parents were both travelers. And so my receptive self, when it comes to metaphysics and shamanic things, has been initiated when I was very young. I had the great fortune, for example, of dancing with the Maasai tribe in Africa when I was only 10 years old for 2 days. Or I had the great fortune of being in the jungle in Congo, and also have the great fortune of being in meditation for days on end when I was only 14 in a secluded ashram in India. So all of these things have brought me as an artist, because I am an artist in essence first, to realize that the metaphysical element in art is very important, especially today. And if I may say, I also started presenting a class, a lecture every last Sunday of the month, which is called Meditations on Sacred Art. And what I do there, I basically make people become very relaxed and aware of how to tune in into one particular sacred image and what happens after that. So please, you're more than welcome to try me out for that too, every last Sunday of the month at 7. It's a free event. The next one will be on Chagall's artworks.
And this is also at the Elemental Art Studio Gallery.
Yes.
-128.
Yes.
Inspirations is the exhibition we're talking about today on Artist on Art. If you've just tuned in, I have the great pleasure of speaking with 3 local artists, Irina Silva, RDuck Albert, and Heejin Lee. Heejin Lee is a multimedia painter, would you say, Heejin?
I guess so, yes.
So do you use collage?
I mix all kinds of media that I find everywhere, wherever I go to. For me, it's the medium that I can use. So lately, I'm using as my first time to try out with red wine to into the canvas and paper that gives me to experience with new materials that I'm enjoying so much. So this show is the first time to share with my red wine, also add other mixed media with it. So
you also use ink?
Mm-hmm. I'm using ink where I bring from my country. So it's Korean black ink I'm using with it.
And you find that to be special?
Yes, it is special.
And you know how to work with it because you were trained?
I was. And when I was in Korea, actually, I trained it classic way of painting. But I didn't really enjoy ink that much at that time. But after I moved to America, I could see the value of what it was and what it became to me right now. So I'm enjoying so much.
And you can use it with water so it washes, so you get various gradations from the ink. And then with I just had the pleasure of seeing Heejin's latest work that'll be, again, premiering at Inspirations at the Elemental Art Studio Gallery. Heejin, your work is on paper?
On paper and canvas.
And canvas. And they're about 2 feet by 3 feet, around there. So they're not too small, but they're not really big. And it does have an Asian look to it. There is a flatness, would you say? What would you say, Iris?
Well, one of the things that struck me about Heejin's work is that she has that painterly touch that you can always find in the high modernist abstract expressionists. So I visually link her talent with the great ones, from Pollock to Richter to many other important abstract expressionists. But one of the things that truly attracted me about her work is that when I initially started seeing her work, I would hear music. So there's something about her way of utilizing the marking. There's a marking element, especially with the ink, that has a connection with not so much hearing the music, but feeling and seeing the music. So that blend is what actually inspired me originally to bring her, myself, and Albert together.
All right. So Heejin, as Iris was explaining, there are markings, there's washes, and you've recently discovered wine, which is fabulous. So there's pinks and reds, and it seems washed with it. Have you tried teas?
I did before. Yes, coffee too, actually. It's so much fun.
But wine is the best.
It's different.
You spill the wine, you're like, yay!
Yay!
So Heejin, you live at the Tannery Arts. You're a part of the Tannery Arts culture. How long have you been here, since it opened? Or
I have been there almost 3 years now.
And how do you like it?
I love it. It fits me so well. And there are so many interesting artists live together and encourage and work together. Just the environment is just like amazing to me.
Yeah, and of course, you were talking to Kevin Devaney earlier in the art bar and the many, many events that are happening there and all the studios that are happening there. And really, for First Friday, you can go to the Tannery Arts Center and see maybe 10, 20 different artists and also gallery spaces that are showing other artists.
Yes, that's correct. It's a really wonderful abode of active artists and curators getting together to create momentum that is so wonderful about our community at the Tannery.
So we've got the next song is coming up. Can you tell us what this is, RDuck Albert? I'm going to play it a little bit for you. Okay, so what is this, RDuck Albert?
Professor Eben Pussycat.
Okay.
Also known as Professor Pussyfoot. He's a fine little performance I did with a good friend of mine, Mr. Riz Orchestra, who a guitar virtuoso as well as some other many instruments. And this particular piece is a creation. Again, many of these things evolve, and they're scored in advance. And the scores are interpreted throughout the evening, and there's little segments, and then you end up with this lovely little piece of music.
Fabulous. We're going to be taking a little break and listening to RDuck Albert's Mr. Pussycat?
Pussyfoot.
Mr. Pussyfoot.
Professor Eben Pussyfoot.
Stay tuned, everybody, and we'll get to hear more about these wonderful artists. Got a little RDuck Albert in the background there. What's the name of this song, Albert?
Oh gosh, what track are we on?
We're on track number 6, Sexy 6. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to Artists on Art here at KZSC Santa Cruz. I have the guest artists for Inspirations, an upcoming exhibition premiering this Friday at the First Friday Art Studio Tour. If you haven't heard about First Friday, it's this fabulous day where Santa Cruz local businesses and gallery owners throw open the doors and invite art lovers to come in, and many times the artists are there ready to talk with you. And I particularly suggest going to the Tannery Art Center, where you can see a whole lot of art in a very small area, and in particular the Elemental Art Studio Gallery 128 that is owned and run by Irina Silva, who's here today with her guest artists for Inspirations, the exhibition, Heejin Lee, and the music of RDuck Albert that we've got in the background. RDuck also is premiering a video on that day. That's true.
It'll be premiered audio as well. The reason, embarrassingly, you say track 6, and I need to look at my track list, is some of this stuff, it's a little bit older. I've produced over the years many pieces of video artwork as well as music. And I hope you don't mind that. This is called staple spotting, and this is an evolution from times when I used to walk on the railroad tracks a lot more often. I used to jump some trains and experience some of those thrilling adventures that come from being a low-key hobo, a tourist hobo, as it was. And so we've come to staple spotting here.
Wonderful, wonderful. And Iris was talking earlier in the show that all three of you have produced a whole new body of work for this exhibition, Inspirations.
Yes, that's right. And that's the reason why we are so excited to be here on air, so that people hopefully will get to come and see what happens when 3 artists get together and in collaboration decide to create a completely new body of work. I'd like to mention that Albert and his music compositions that you're going to be hearing at the gallery during the performance are all new. And the video sculptings that he's also presenting and will be projected in the gallery are all new works that he's incorporated and sculpted from my art and Heejin's art. So that's very exciting for us visual artists that we've been able to collaborate on this project with RDuck Albert.
You've been collaborating over the last 6 months, you say?
Yes, we started this collaborative workshop in July. Yes.
I want to just go back to Heejin for just a second. Heejin Lee, you were describing your paintings. Iris was mentioning that they're abstract paintings, expressive, pretty postmodern. I got a bit of a Kandinsky little hit off of seeing them on an iPhone, but Heejin, you are using, as you mentioned before, ink from Korea as well as red wine. And then Iris was saying during the break that you use another element, time.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
I was painting since I was 10 years old, decided to be painter. And that decision made me to move to Santa Cruz from my country, Korea, to America, which is not short traveling. It's
it's a big cultural difference as well as a big, difference.
It gave me to have chance to be different. Like, so I said I was painting, I am painting, I will paint. So there are the time since I was younger, right now, and until I died. So I'm painting. That's always in time I'm holding and interested in that ideas of it. Also, this time I'm learning, and I got a lot of inspiration through not just for myself to was painting and painting will paint. I am painting with also making art. It's not only just painting itself, making art and appreciate art through other people. So what I'm doing a lot, the series of work, especially in this show, Circle, which three of us are in circle. There, it's not line of work. It's like circle. We from the beginning to end are together. So I'm into those concept of the ideas through our show, and also what I think of in this time. I was thinking about the sentence. I can hear painting. And I can see the music. So especially with Albert, music really gave me the ideas of I can be able to see the music. And I always hear my painting before, but this time is more strong way to came up to me to realize how much I enjoy it. And I could be in it. So,
and your images really, I think, convey that very well. As Iris was mentioning, Iris sees the music coming from the paintings, and Iris, I want to talk to you a little bit more about. When I listen to Heejin, it does remind me of your work beyond the actual practice of making the artwork, but the introduction of shamanism into art practice. And you also talk about metaphysics. So I wanted to ask you if you could just define for us what you mean by shaman, and how then that could impress upon both your work, and I'm guessing you were impressed, RDuck Albert and Heejin. You also have been collaborating on these ideas, right?
Yes. For me, shamanism is when there is individual understanding of a very central creative area within each human consciousness. And so that awareness can either be visited once in a while or can be preserved. And my belief is that artists are always trying to preserve that awareness of being completely in tune with the most profound artistic processes and inspirations all the time. So the more artists can do that, and the more it's natural that they will be shamans themselves. So in the ancient times, we're talking about pre-monotheistic religion times, of course, all the tribes in the world knew this. And so each tribe had their shaman in the village, and usually the shaman was also the artist in the village, because those two things are not separable. And my belief is that to be able to honor and celebrate this incredible heritage that's being promoted and shared and expressed from the human planet up to today, where we have incredible technology, and that we can embrace this principle, once again, is what my mission as an artist and now gallery owner and curator is all about.
Right. And I want to just mention that when I saw you in your Elemental Art Studio gallery, and we talked about you coming on the show and bringing Heejin in and RDuck Albert, you were in the process, it looked like performance art to me. And so you have your gallery space, which is very inviting, very comfortable. You come in at -128, and so you go into your studio gallery, and a large part of your work is conversing. It's almost psychological.
Yes, it is. And well, because I offer many different things at my gallery. One of the other things that I offer is to create circle. Once again, I create a modern circle. I get people together every Tuesday, and we gather together and we make cards through the collage process. And this is a copyrighted process. It's called Soul Collage. And out of that, we do readings of the cards that we make. I've been teaching this process since 2008. And out of it, I have grown into my own shamanic practice. So I also offer one-on-one healing clearings to my clients. And that's becoming a very important part also of my creative outlet. Because when I work one-on-one with people that are interested in understanding iconography and images that come out of these tarot decks that are made, handmade through the collage technique, everything has a feeling of the now, the present moment. Everything is very alive. And then out of that, I also work energetically with clients. So once again, my Elemental Art Studio Gallery has many different layers of how I work. From the most mundane, which I absolutely adore, being the Italian woman that I am, by showcasing artists, creating events, and feeding the cultural power that we have as artists locally, all the way into the most intimate, where I can offer my own personal understanding of the sacred element found in the human individual and in the artistic act itself. And I'm sorry for my voice today.
I think you sound like Lauren Bacall and really great. You've been listening to Iris Irina Silva talking about her art studio, Elemental Art Studio Gallery, -128 at the Tannery Arts Center. She will be premiering an exhibition, Inspirations, this Friday as a part of the first Friday of Santa Cruz Art Tour. And with her, she has been collaborating with Heejin Lee, who is a painter, and RDuck Albert, who is a visual artist as well as a sound artist. And so, Albert, we've been listening to your music in the background. It's actually over now. I'm going to have to turn it back on. But it's really, really interesting. And so I just wanted to ask you a little bit about your art practice and perhaps how collaborating with Iris and Heejin has been for you. And how does the sound different now?
It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing to be collaborating with these folks. As I said, I do create a score, as it was, before many of the radio performances, and often they are sketches. They're just simple outlines, tend to be pen drawing, very childish, stickman figure quality. But from that, it's sketched out. It's fluffed up like a nice big fluffy pillow for an evening's performance. So working with Heejin and Iris has been quite comfortable. It's very, very easy to do. The work that they're producing is the fluffed out version, and it makes my part very easy and embarrassingly so. I just don't have to do anything. I just step up and make some music. And these two lovely women are doing all the work here, and I find that what is peculiar and what I've really come to find from working with visual artists that are creating a canvas is just understanding how ephemeral it all is, particularly the video and audio. It's lost very quickly. It's a moment. It's a flash in time that evolves. It's like Heejin is mentioning. It's a circular process that doesn't circle. It never actually comes back, but it is moving. It's maybe more of a spiral or more like a shell expanding into the future or the past. And that synesthetic quality that comes from these audio and video being put together, it just wanders away, and it's been amazing. I'm really glad to be part of the inspirations and the translating and the transitions, textures. It's all there. Right there. It's going to be. I'm really looking forward to seeing it because I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, now wait a second. You're going to be you're showing a movie on Friday and you haven't seen it yet?
All right. I'll give you that.
You've seen a little bit of it, right?
It is. All right. So you're catching me in my language, but ultimately that video right now is that live. It is processing at home. I've done the sculpting, I've done the sketching of it, and now the computer is doing the rest of it to translate it into a video texture, and it can be replayed, right? But it's never the same, and that's kind of what I'm trying to describe here. Is that the ephemeral quality of that video on the surface? Right now, we're going to be projecting this onto unique surfaces. I mean, this will be a screen. Quite transparent. Other times I've projected onto pieces of wood. I project onto people. And people particularly, that creates a real kinetic process that unreproducible. It's a moment, and then it's gone.
Sounds like dance, performance art. That's why I call you all multimedia artists. Iris, we didn't get to talk about your specific body of work that you're going to be showing, and how, just to describe it to our audience so that they can visualize it in their mind. They're collages.
Yes.
And you use oil and acrylics.
Only acrylic, and once again I use ink too, black ink. I use Chinese ink. I like to go to Chinatown in San Francisco and buy the really stinky one, the very gooey one. And I define myself as an abstract naturalist.
So there's elements of nature.
There's always elements of nature, but in this new body of work, there's definitely the inspirational element that transitions into navigating Heejin Lee's art and Albert's art. So what's so exciting for me is that I believe I've grown into a new set of works that I feel very strong about and will probably stay with me for a while. So aesthetically speaking, I'm jumping into the next step of my own personal artistic formal exploration. And all of it is very much connected to textures that you see in nature, and with this feeling that everything has to be, as Albert was saying, ephemeral, always ever changing. Everything has a lot of movement in my work. A lot of it is based on that.
Yeah, I'm imagining one of the pictures you showed me before the show, and it had, it seemed like a bit of a river. The first one that you showed me, it seemed like there was some liquid type looking
yes,
material.
The element of water is probably the most important to me. So from a shamanic element for myself as a human being, water is my primary source of everything, of inspiration and also of motivation, and that's why I need to live by the water. It gives me, I think, the most insight into things. Being next to the Pacific Ocean has truly transformed me as an artist. So I always have to bring the element of water in everything I create visually.
That's wonderful. We're coming to the end of our show today, Artists on Art. It's been a great pleasure speaking with Heejin Lee, RDuck Albert, and Irina Silva. Iris, for people to find more information about Elemental Art Studio Gallery -128, they can go to elementalartstudio.co.
Yes.
And all of that you've mentioned, the monthly, I'm trying to go, you do, Tuesday nights you do the
soul collage class at 7 p.m. and then every last Sunday of the month I do meditation on sacred art at 7.
And the next one is going to be Marc Chagall.
Yes.
And you also have a Facebook page called Irina Silva, yes. Silva.
Yes.
And then Heejin Lee, you're on Facebook as well.
Yes.
And so people can go to Heejin Lee, and would you like to spell it out, or should I spell it out?
I can spell it
okay.
out.
Yeah.
Heejinlee.
Heejin Lee.
Yes.
And then RDuck, you have a website also. It's RDuck.com.
Yeah, that's probably the central clearinghouse. It has links to everything from there.
And then you also are on Facebook called RDuck Show.
Correct.
And then you do a weekly radio show on Free Radio?
On Free Radio Santa Cruz every Friday night.
Friday night from when to when?
8:30 p.m. until 11.
8:30. All right. And so let me just, you can hear what's in the background there.
Oh, hey, that's Tiger Mountain, another guest. Often we have guests that come in and do little performances as well.
Is this a good place to start with this song?
Oh, that's beautiful.
Okay.
That's beautiful.
All right,
Thank
so
you.
we're going to go out with Tiger Mountain.
Correct.
And don't miss Inspirations exhibition at Elemental Art Studio Gallery -128 in Studio 128 at the Tannery Arts Center. I think you'll be very, very happily inspired. In fact, you'll also be able to see a whole lot of other art at the Tannery Arts Center. Go out this Friday and let the art fall upon you, because it'll be all over the place. I want to thank everybody who's come on the show today. Heejin, Albert, Iris, thank you so much. I want to thank Emma Lynn, who's here with me beside me here in the studio. I want to thank Vanya Benavides for live tweeting and Facebooking during the show. And I wish you all a fabulous day. Please stay tuned from Shamrock. Shamrock's like the best Irish.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us, Nada. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And if you missed any part of the show, you'll be able to go to artistsonart.com and you'll be able to see the video, the podcast, the audiocast, the whole shebang. Enjoy, everybody.
Necklace of power.